The Castle Mixed Stout Black Conversations is definitely one of those programs that you should not sleep on, especially if you are young, gifted, and black, because this program specifically talks about issues that are relevant to us. It talks about things that affect us as Black people. And what they do is they bring in a panel of 4 or 5 different individuals who are in the art, media, podcasting sector to talk about a particular topic. So in this particular episode, they were talking about the preservation of indigenous languages. And I really, really, really think that you should listen to this.
Do not speak any African language, right? And it's not for lack of trying. There's push and pull there, and it's not right. Yeah. Right. And
it's a contemporary battle.
You lost it.
No, we all lost it. I lost it, but then you don't have to fight. Never argue to open the truth. Never.
So there's a point for this.
Yeah. So I think if everyone can relate to this, and I'm sure people at home can relate to some of this, I think it's interesting where we're heading. I think it's interesting where we're heading. The most powerful moment for me is when I revealed that I'm struggling with, my kids don't speak, any indigenous language, and he said he's losing the battle. And I was like, what, you? How you guys? All right, okay. So, something to grieve over together.
People have been pointing to this though, I mean, I remember reading the late great the essays that he wrote in the 90s saying, unless we make a concerted effort, unless he was speaking about the new government that was still going to come into power, unless we make a concerted effort to make languages a vital part of the education system, not just, an African language there, because it's nice to have it, but to integrate it meaningfully, conceptually, into mathematics, into the way we do drama, into the way we do science, into the way we understand biology, astronomy, all of it. Unless we do that, we're gonna lose them. He also said, he was somebody who wrote in English, for decades and decades, né? So he says that time, like in the 50s, 60s, when the Heinemann African Writers series came out, the iconic, African Writers series, they said to him, oh, your work is really beautiful, but it's not African enough, right? And at that time, he was very pissed off about it. He spoke to Chinua Achebe about it, and they had this debate, and it was a debate that lasted for a long time, where he said, you can't, he used to say this often, you cannot unscramble the colonial egg. Once you've made an omelette, it can't go back to being tamati onion, So we are where we are. He's like, given that, I'm gonna make this English speak my language. This English is going to speak my experience. Yeah, Setswana, my experience. Yeah, my experience also of Western, everything. And then Achebe said to him, okay, when you do that, does Setswana benefit or does English benefit?
Damn. Simple question. It's a simple question with a very, very simple answer. Just that scholars are too philosophical about simple concepts. Which one? If I'm Tswana and I'm reading this book by a Tswana man relating my Tswana reality, my mind is reading that in Tswana. I may be reading English, but I'm hearing Setswana. You understand? Like right now, the data now is Xhosa. Are you hearing me in Xhosa? Are you hearing me in English or in a language that you can understand?
I'm hearing the essence of you in Sesotho. Can I say why? Because we don't give ourselves enough credit because we are a multilingual society, but we only understand multilingualism or we only acknowledge multilingualism at the highest level of proficiency in a language. But most of us, when I did a baby show for many, many years, so I spoke to lots of ECD development, early child development specialists, language development specialists. Black children speak tend to speak later, especially this generation of kids, because they're exposed to multiple languages. So Papa was Xhosa, Mama was Sotho, I'm at crèche in English, TV speaking English. So the kids distilling all this stuff. You find they speak later than white children or children who are exposed to one language at the home. But when the child speaks, the child is fluent in both. And in all of the languages that they are exposed to. I saw with my children, the thing that killed them being able to respond ka Sesotho was school. But their understanding of Sesotho is there.
I think that language exists in multiple forms. And I think that the youth of today, what is really extraordinary about them, but also what is a part of their lineage, because so many young people in South Africa have done this, is they're finding a cultural language. They're finding language through dance, language through music, language through technology. It might not be verbal language, but it is a language. It is a mode of expression, and it's resonating with the world. People all over the world are making amapiano. People all over the world are dancing to these dances that are being made by young black people.
I've got 3 children. They speak English. You take this constantly. They speak English. Now, am I going to say to my children, no, don't speak English? Take time this course. Their teachers at school speak English.
That's it.
Their friends speak English. TV speaks English. What must I do as a parent now? I must find a way to teach the concepts in a language that they can understand. Because what is the tradition of Xhosa? Is it speaking it or is it the practice of it? Because my means about this course, they speak it fluently, but we are entering a helicopter, and then what is the meaning of Mtanumku?
Should this episode have focused on the preservation of language, the evolution of language, or what you spoke about, the universalness of intelligence, the understanding?
That's where we must start. I'm of the notion that if we can remove narratives, remove lines and borders and all these narratives, no black people, no white people, no old Africans, no new Europe, no. Remove that. Let's see each other through human eyes. We start to speak to each other as humans. You'll find that we are all solving the same problems. All of us.
First, let's learn to parent, not raise our children. Because children that have been raised, they begin to present with psychosomatic disorder and psychological disorder. Here's the thing. If level can be able to make your child live from here up to the moment, it will work to improve his attachment to you. Not avoidant, not anxious. So as the child grows, he knows that the needs are met. But if you don't meet your child's needs, he will withdraw and emotionally empathize. Western schools start looking for substitute needs. When a child loses the needs from the parent and begin to offer substitute needs, she loses her language. She can't express herself. She becomes an emotional dwarf. Then the child will begin to look for more aggressive things to substitute what the mother or the father did not give. Craving for sex, craving for drama, craving for everything, the substances, that it all broke down at the neonatal stage.
Even technological stimulation, permanent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When she's too preoccupied, for instance, we don't have teenagers anymore, we're called screenagers. Yeah. So that is why then the language is broken. Yet they need to learn the language intelligence. That's how I want to say it.
Yeah, peace.
Please, allow me to say it. I'll leave it now.
Here's another term that people love using, especially in-laws, makoti. And we don't even know what it actually means. It's not affectionate at all. But I am going to let Ubaba Myeza explain why.
We're going to get the shot that is which is Mark on spear. The idea is that, That's why your marriages are messed up like this, because these are watching you. It's the intelligence. You don't exercise about the intelligence in the language.
I will not be calling my wife that. I will not be calling my wife Mokote anymore. Yeah, it's crazy. Wow.
If you are, I don't want to preserve. If you are going to allow a proper evolution of the language,
right,
so that the masses within the language can benefit, ensure that those language dictions and meanings that have been lost, utilize their concepts. Yeah, to the philosophy. Abafana bayibiza ngamajongo eThekwini. Uzayijonga. Yini ijongo? It's a bull. A bull.
I think they need
What am I? What are they saying?
I think
yeah, if you're going to call yourself a castrated bull, I have a bit of a problem. Because it then interferes with the profoundness of the consciousness and how your soul or your consciousness responds to the
and the historical significance of why Amato died.
Yes, you know, there is something important. There's a reason why this is.
That reason is not there.
So then what you do? You then follow the intelligence of the meaning.
The conversations can.
Let me just further add on to what Ubaba Myeza has said. So he has told us exactly what Inkabi means, which is a castrated bull. So now you find that this is actually used a lot without people actually understanding what it means. I will further say that it is also used to describe a person who is a hitman. They are referred to as Inkabi or Izkabi if it's a group of hitmen. And the reason behind that, of course, a castrated bull no longer cares. So I think that it was taken from the fact that if you are a man and you truly care, you wouldn't go around killing. So the moment you go around killing for monetary value, a part of you has already been castrated. So that part of your manhood has already been stripped away, because no one in their right mind would go on a killing spree and just kill for monetary value. Unless, of course, you have been castrated. You can no longer have that family of your own. Because you have to understand that Inkabi, actually, those are not people who live in homes. They separate themselves from society for obvious reasons. Because it would be hard for you to do the job if you are considered to be a viable member of society. At the end of the day, a part of you has to be stripped away. So that's why they were referred to as Inkabi. You're a castrated bull. Family no longer matters to you. So you can go and, unalive a whole family. That's essentially what a hitman does. They don't care about who was left behind. If they find a family, they can get rid of all of those people. So, yeah, the intelligence of a language is very important.
The Malay Indians in Cape Town, predominantly 67% of Africans came from. Then Africans, they picked up dialects, African dialects out there, in order to form what to say they recognize as the national language, which interestingly now polished up their identity. They now have a language they could speak. They had a language that they could entrench so that they could control the English and the people that are going to work for them, which is us this time.
What is indigenous language? What is language? Asuseni the humanity of it, the external humanity. Let's put Africans aside, Europeans aside, Chinese aside. Let's put colored skin aside. And let's get to the essence of what humans are. Spirit. What language does spirit speak?
It's a brilliant question because that teaches us that. They used to communicate telepathically.
If we can go back to that essence, at some point, someone is trying to put you.
So this was quite an eye-opening episode. And yes, I do agree that language does evolve with time. And also, I agree that we should remember the intelligence of a language and also try by all means to preserve the concepts of a language, because there's only so much that we can control. But based off what you've watched, now you realized just how dope the Castle Milk Stout Black Conversations are. Hopefully, you will watch more. And
to say that the sun never sets on the British Empire, right? And probably the last strongest vestige of the British Empire is language. Indigenous language, I think, is language that is forged in the mouths, in the minds, in the hearts, in the spirits of the people. So that can be contentious because you have indigenous languages that go back centuries, millennia, in our corner of the world. But then I would say, and other people would say as well, that Afrikaans is an indigenous language because it was forged in the mouths of slaves. It was made first in the mouths of black and brown people. It was first written by enslaved people. So, yeah, who belongs to the language? Who does the language belong to?
The language owns people because it's a spiritual dissemination to their consciousness. The doorway to your consciousness is your language. Because other than you defining your language, it defines you. It answers questions within and inside of you that you need to express. Therefore, you need the right semantics, the correct grammar that comes with the guidance and ability to express it. And ultimately, psycholinguistically, you need the emotional vocabulary so that you can be understood in the context of communication. So, I would say, therefore, the language owns it.
When you speak of Afrikaans, to me, it's really fascinating because it feels like it's the most successful kind of decolonizing initiative.